The story of this South African police officer who made it a habit to rob banks during his break time in the late 90s will send shivers down through your spine. This is Pascal here on the channel Explore with Pascal. Stay with me to satisfy our curiosity together. By all appearances, Andre Stander was a model police officer of the South African police force. Very confident, smart, intelligent, and well respected. But what no one knew was that he was robbing banks during his break time. Yes, you get me right. And went on to do this for over 3 years, which he ended up to become one of the notorious bank robbers in South African history. And this is the beginning of the story of Andre Stander. Andre Stander was born in 1946 in Transvaal, South Africa. Being the son of a police officer, he was pressured to walk in the footsteps of his dad, which he eventually joined the police college after graduating from high school and completed with flying colors in 1963. Interestingly, due to his father's influence in the law enforcement agency, Andre Stander was promoted in the rank of captain just at the age of 26. And shortly after that, he joined the Captain Park Criminal Investigation Department, which he became a detective. Despite rising to that high level in his career at that early age, Andre had different plans. Andre was not satisfied with that, and so he decided to hatch another cold plan. But everything was moving on for Andre until the political climate of South Africa changed Andre forever. And that is when his colleague officers took the lives of 176 unarmed school children in the 1976 Soweto uprising. And that was when there were a lot of protests on the street of South Africa against apartheid. This, according to Andre, was a disillusion because he felt the police officers or the police force is meant to protect the people but not to take the life of people. And so this is where he began using every single trick he has found as a detective to rob banks. Andre knew how bank works and where and how to manage his ways around these banks in terms of his robbery activities. And so he began to roll his plans out. Working in Johannesburg as a police detective, one day he decided to unleash his first robbery attack. And guess where he decided to go? He decided to fly from Johannesburg to Durban, rented a car, and drove straight to a car park near the bank. And guess what he did? He changed his looks by putting on mustache and wigs on just to hide his identity. Upon arriving at the bank, Andre moved straight to the cashier, handed over his bag to him, and asked his bag to be filled with money whilst he showed the cashier his gun. So the cashier had no choice than to fill the bag with cash, and Andre walked off silently. Surprisingly, this happened within a very short time. Before everybody at the bank could know, Andre was in his office at Johannesburg chilling. This continue over and over again, and the next day Andre robbed another bank, and sometimes he robs about 3 banks in every single day. Yes, so it became a habit, and he kept going and going. And within a space of 3 years, that's between 1977 and 1980, Andre managed to rob 30 banks, becoming South Africa's most wanted criminal. And it was difficult for authorities to know who this criminal is, because sometimes Andre himself is part of the police detectives who always go to these banks to investigate his own activity. And that tells you how serious and how smart Andre was. And so within that period, bank robbery became very, very rampant. The perpetrator was Andre Stander. And he was going away with it because that was in the period where South Africans were going through political instability. And he kept going until one day he decided to partner with his friend Carl van Deventer to open a souvenir shop in Johannesburg. But apparently Carl van Deventer had no idea the kind of person he was entering into partnership with. During a party in 1979, Andre made a proposal to his business partner, wanted to get Carl Deventer into the robbery business, which Carl said no. Now, knowing that Carl was not interested in the robbery activities, Andre played around it, and it sounded jovial that he was kidding and didn't mean what he was talking about. But this was the interesting part of it. One thing that Andre didn't know about his new friend, Carl van de Vanta, was a member of South African Bureau of State Security. Carl quickly informed his bosses that Andre might have been this robber who has been slipping through the fingers of police for the past 3 years. And so they began to set up their investigations light on him. Eventually, boom, Andrea was arrested and was quickly arraigned before court and was sentenced for 77 years for his crime. He was transferred into Zandwater Maximum Prison in Cullinan, South Africa. While this will be the end of road for many criminals, the tale of Andre Stander was about to start. So whilst in prison, Stander didn't waste time counting the days for his release. So he began to make friends and letting people know what brought him into the prison. It didn't take time for him to be recognized as one of the bravest and toughest bank robbers in South African history. So he began to formalize and a lot of inmates began to show him respect. So to get things rolling, Andre Stander quickly became a friend with Alan Hale, who was an inmate at that maximum security prison. But with Alan, the only thing is he only managed 5 successful bank robs. And so you could clearly tell that he was not as prolific as Andre. But the two became friends and planned their way to break jail, which they successfully did. In attending a physio section with an inmate called Patrick McCall, the two overpowered the officer involved and ran away with the car of the physiotherapist. So soon after their escape, they pulled out in front of a farmhouse and held the owner as a hostage and asked him to call the police. And you know why they did that? Stander knew the area was full of police vehicles and the only thing they can get their way out is to lure the police to come in, and then they overpower the police to take the police vehicle to get away with it, which they succeeded in doing it and made a plan to come back again for Alan, which they did. The trio, Andre Stander, Patrick McCall, and Alan Hale, became the Stander Gang. And this name was given to them by the media after realizing that the trio have been able to escape jail and they are out there to continue with their robbery activity. They made sure that there is no casualty in any robbery activity they undertook. They made sure they don't hold anybody as a hostage, because sometimes they have to perform 3-4 operations at the same time, sometimes in the same building. And so this is something that they need to be quick about it, and they really do not care about how much they are getting from every single robbery, as long as they are making some money for themselves to spend on their extravagant lifestyle. That was what they needed and not anything big. So they continue with their spree. The Stander Gang kept going until their love for female company changed. On January 25th, 1984, a hidden camera in one of these banks the gang have robbed captured the activity of the Stander Gang. And so quickly, now one of the banks that has captured the activities of the Stander Gang releases the footage to the police, and authorities quickly publish the footage in the media to help find out the whereabouts of the gang members. And quickly, women who have visited the base of the Stander Gang began to speak up. So they came out to release information about the Stander Gang, which the police relied on it to track the activity of the Stander Gang. So at the time the pictures of the Stander Gang members were released, Andre Stander, the gang leader, was in Florida to negotiate for a yacht which the three has planned to leave South Africa with, because they've had enough and it was time for them to leave South Africa to go elsewhere in the world to enjoy their money. Patrick McCall and Alan Hale were in South Africa. So when the publication was done and the news broke, the pictures were showing all over the internet and in the newspapers. These two were in South Africa. So the two realized it was time for them to split. Either than that, there was a greater chance of the authorities getting hold of them. While Alan Hill left their hideouts, Patrick McCall decided to stay because he thought that hideout was safe and that the police cannot track them down. So Alan Hill left, and 3 days after, the hideout which Patrick McCall thought it was safe was surrounded by police. And in an attempt to exchange bullets with the police, Patrick McCall was gunned down, and so he was killed. But for Alan Hill, he managed to find his way into Greece, where he was moving from one European country to another European country. But in 1985, Alan was arrested in a bank in the United Kingdom, where he went there to withdraw some money. Hill was convicted in the United Kingdom and was sent to 9 years imprisonment. And after spending that years in the United Kingdom, he was extradited to South Africa to face the laws of South Africa. And so he was charged with robbery and other related activities, which he was jailed for 10 years. So whilst in Florida, Stander managed to get a fake Australian passport, which he managed to get away with it. And he changed the name from Andre Stander to Peter Harris. And guess what? He successfully lived his life as an Australian up to some point. So whilst Andre was in Florida, guess what he was doing? He was stealing cars and selling them to this customer he's got. So the South African government declared him as fugitive. He was published in the newspapers, which this customer who has been buying car from Andre got to know that this guy he's dealing with is a criminal and he's being wanted in South Africa. So quickly he informed the police. So police drove straight to his house. Unfortunately, when police got there, Andre was not there. Andre has gone out on a bike, biking around, exercising. So upon arrival to the house to see police have surrounded his house, he decided to escape again, and he decided to do it the hard way. And in an attempt, he got shot by the police. And that was the tragic end of the life of Andre Stander. So moral lessons here. We might be professionals in our various fields. At some point, when you get to know that what is happening is not something you've signed for, or at the beginning of your career, if you get to the point where you realize that you've been pushed to make certain decisions by your family, that is not the end of the life for you. You can easily turn around and rewrite the story for yourself. That is it. And it is always good to make sure that you involve yourself in the right company. Either than that, the results of your actions might not be a good one, just like what happened to Andre Stander. Just stay and do what you love doing, and I think that will make this world a better place for you and everybody else.